What's an argument that you lost because the other person was too dumb to understand your logic? I was trying to explain to my roommates that we can't leave our front door unlocked 24/7, especially when no one is in the apartment and when they're out and I'm sleeping, and that they should replace the keys they lost. Plus we're on a college campus where theft is pretty common and my room was broken into the previous year. We live on a college campus so we're safe. What good is a locked door going to do if someone comes in with a gun? If something happens that's just life. We went around in circles for 27 minutes. Worst argument ever. I'll be finishing up my history degree in a few months. I really shouldn't be arguing my subject with people who've never had a reason to pick up a history book, but I was stuck with a buddy of mine for several hours a day for the better part of last year, and we got around to talking about pretty much everything. At one point, for one reason or another, we got to talking about the Comanchians. I mentioned a common misconception, and he countered with a stereotype that he learned in grade school. We went back and forth for a while, and I tried to reference books on the topic, but his response was always to restate the same stereotype and say I'm part Cherokee, so I know. Eventually, when he clearly had nothing left to say, he asked the most annoying question possible in that situation. Yeah, well, were you there? How do you even respond to that? I definitely wasn't there, but neither was anyone else alive today, and accepting that argument would pretty much void all study of history. I pretty much gave up. He's not a dumb guy, but history is clearly not his field, and there was no way anything was gonna come of the argument. A guy I used to work with believed that germs were a myth. He thought bad air is what made you sick. We worked in a meat department. Luckily he would wash his hands and keep stuff clean, but his logic was dirty things make bad air. I tried so hard to convince him germs were real, to the point I would print off literature of various educational levels, from kindergarten to college level, and he believed it was all a hoax. It drove me up a wall. He also believed the moon landing was fake. We got in heated arguments over it, to the point my boss put a ban on discussing the moon at all. I got into an argument with a guy who swore red cars were faster. His rationale was because Ferraris are always painted red, which is also not true. At first I thought he was just messing with me, but no, he really believed it and nothing I could say would change his mind. I finally gave up on arguing with stupid and told him how right he was. It's not usually logic I have trouble with, it's nuance. I'm really tired of the media being dishonest. I feel like it's the largest contributing factor to the destruction of our country. So if I correct the media and point out Beto O'Rourke committed a misdemeanor and is not in fact a felon and therefore can own a firearm, my conservative friends come back with guess you went to the other side. No, I'm just correcting an inaccuracy. Or if I say, Trump didn't say X, that was taken out of context. What he really said was I all my liberal friends say you Trump supporters are destroying this country. No, dipshit. Read the words I said. This is the other half of the problem. People cannot think critically. They cannot evaluate a simple statement and pull meaning from it without it being tainted with bias. Correcting a person, story, anything, does not mean you support/don't support that person, story, anything. It simply means you've corrected an inaccuracy. We live in an era where, if you do not propagate a lie, you are not on our team. Our team likes the lie. It's so fucking 1984 I can't stand it. The truth is all that matters. Search for truth, not confirmation. Fuck. A guy argued that a baby grand piano was for little children during their earliest piano lessons, saying that's why they are called baby grands. I explained that the term baby grand simply refers to the smallest size of a grand piano, about 4 feet 5 long. He just insisted that baby grands were for little children, and that's why they are called baby grands. Flat earth/Newtonian relativity. When I was still in school, I'd work with my girlfriend's dad on some weekends for some extra money, and I'd normally be the only college-educated one in a field of grown blue-collar men. When one of them learned that I was a physics major, He was very eager to prove that my entire education was wrong. He tried to argue that the earth doesn't rotate and therefore, still not sure how this even draws this conclusion, the earth is flat. His argument was that the duration of a flight going the same distance from east to west should be different than a flight going from west to east because one way you are flying with the rotation and one you are flying against it. I tried explaining relativity in the simplest terms possible. He understood throwing a ball when you're in a moving car/train, walking in a moving plane. Every possible example I could think of, I'd explain and he'd agree. When we got to a plane taking off being like the ball and the earth rotating being the moving car/train, I just completely lost him every time. He said it can't be the same and the liberals brainwashed me if I actually believe that. My coworker thinks that police radar guns work by scanning cars to see how hot their engine is. Because the faster you go, the hotter it will be, right? I tried explaining how Doppler radar works, but she remains convinced that she's correct, because, and I quote, my husband has one of those radar guns, and uses it when he's cooking on the grill. Your husband has an infrared thermometer, you fucking nut. I did not get credit in a game of Trivial Pursuit for my guess of King Tutankhamun. The correct answer was, yep, you guessed it, King Tut. I was like 13. And we had just done an Egypt study in school. So, I was positive about being correct and pretty proud for knowing it. Guy once told me he was speeding on his motorcycle one night in the freezing cold and was almost caught by a police helicopter with an infrared camera. He said he ditched the copter by taking his coat off and cooling his body down to ambient temperature so the infrared camera couldn't see him. I ignored the fact that he'd be dead if his body temp dropped that much and simply asked why they couldn't pick up the heat from the engine. He said infrared cameras only pick up heat from organic sources. At this point I decided against even trying to argue against any of the ridiculous points he was trying to make and just noped right out of the conversation. They kept insisting that they were entitled to their opinion over something that was a fact. For some reason telling her that her opinion didn't sway the truth just made her double down. Situation. I mentioned that a certain YouTube personality was gay. I said it matter-of-factly, not to be mean. The guy has mentioned being gay on his channel several times. This girl got mad and girl kept denying he was into dudes. This was despite me pointing out that he openly identified as gay. She cited that it was her opinion to validate the dude's sexuality on what her stupid ass wants to believe. Whist getting a tour of our children's school garden. The teacher is rambling on about the different veggies and stuff they grow. We are walking by these giant sunflowers. Teacher, oh, these are sunflowers. For making popcorn. Me, you mean you add them to popcorn? Teacher, no. Sunflower seeds make popcorn. Me, I'm 100% sure corn kernels are used for making popcorn. Hence the name popcorn. She sighed and moved on, continuing to think I'm a hulking 6'5" Neanderthal. Now we're at the herb section, and she points at the thyme and rosemary. Teacher, this is thyme and rosemary. We use these to make chocolate. Me, what? You add those to chocolate? That has to give it a funky taste. I'm surprised the kids like it. Teacher, no. We don't add it to chocolate. Chocolate is made from them. I gave up questioning her at this point and finished the tour silently contemplating how this woman can zip up her pants in the morning, let alone get a degree and teaching certificate. In HS football, the night before a game, we would get together and set goals for the game. Defense set the goal of 200 total yards of offense allowed. I corrected the tour to make it less than 200 yards. They disagreed adamantly and kept the greater than. I was tutoring 4 of them in math at the time. They also hit their goal, more than 200 yards given up. I'm a bartender. When I put a drink up to be run to a table in the restaurant, the servers have to put a garnish on depending on the drink. I see new guy standing there staring at the lemons. Ask him what the deal is, and he responds these limes aren't ripe yet. Try to explain that's not how that works and guy tells me I don't have to be an A*****HOLE. Suffice to say, we've lowered our standards for servers lately. This was recent. Someone who doesn't run tried to tell me that running on a treadmill doesn't count because you can just lift up your legs and that the track does all the work. I tried to explain that while it isn't 100% the same as running outside, your body wants to stay relative to the moving track, so yes, you are propelling yourself forward, and many outside runners, myself included, run on treadmills at some point for training when the weather isn't cooperating. I'm pretty sure we would be able to tell if we weren't exerting any effort on the treadmill. He said that people who run on treadmills are lazy and we are all wasting our time pretending to work out. Okay buddy.